and welcome to the Rejection Diaries Season 2. My name's Stuart White. I'm delighted to return for a second series of this podcast. At one point, I wasn't sure if we were going to make it. Part of the premise and the setup for this series is to discuss with other struggling writers the journey that they have gone through in terms of dealing with, facing, and bouncing back from rejection. So it's with much delight that I can announce that we are going to be doing it again and that enough people have volunteered to come and chat to me about their experiences with rejection. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be recording those, and then sporadically we'll be releasing the episodes from all of the discussions with those writers that have come to join me. So I'm very, very excited about that, and it'll be interesting to see how the different experiences compare and contrast with one another, and to see if you who are listening will find those experiences relatable and similar to your own experiences with rejection. I think that all of us experience it, and we maybe have different paths and we have different degrees of rejection, and the way in which we respond to it's all very different. But hearing about other people's experiences definitely helps prepare you better for managing that going forward. So I hope that what we have coming up in the 10 episodes or so of season 2 will provide you with some enlightenment, encouragement, and positivity, even though we're talking about something that's inherently quite a negative topic. But what I wanted to discuss with you tonight as a sort of introductory episode before season 2 kicks off proper is to discuss a little bit about how my recent journey with rejection has been going. I first spoke with you at the start of season 1, which was before the summer, I believe. And obviously, a lot has changed since then. There's obviously things that, some things I moved on from, some things that I'm progressing towards, and things, yeah, they change from week to week basis. And rejections come in all shapes and sizes, whether you're querying or entering comps, or just sending your work out to into anything. It doesn't have to be a big event or competition for it to matter. When someone doesn't respond, or someone doesn't like your work, or someone has a less than positive bit of feedback on that particular bit of work. So before we kick off for season 2, here's the latest with me personally. I spent a good part of the early 2021 sending my work out to agents, and as you know, most of you who follow me on Twitter or have followed the other podcasts, you know that without much success. However, I threw myself into a new novel this year. I have been sending it out recently to competitions. I've had mixed response. I was rejected on it from a number of those. I put out a pitch of my book on PitMad, and again had no likes or any agent interest from that. I entered the Wells competition. I entered one called Inks and Insights. I entered I entered another one as well. I think I can't remember off the top of my head which one it is right now, but all of those came back negative, and I didn't get any further with those. However, more recently, as I always encourage everyone to do, I've been still continuing to put my work out. I entered the Chicken House mentoring open coop opportunity, which was recently. I've yet to hear back from that. I'm assuming it's a no. I think that was what they stated in the website, which obviously a bit disappointed with, but I guess that's just how it goes. We face uh, success and disappointment as the same old foe, and if we do that, we have a balance to our responses, and our emotional yo-yo starts to level off a little bit. which is something that helps to keep us on the straight and narrow through this really bumpy path. I also entered the SCBWI Undiscovered Voices 2022 competition, and I was delighted to announce last week that I was longlisted for that. I I'm not sure what's going to happen next. They'll tell us very soon about whether we're going to be included in the anthology or not. That's being shortlisted in effect. But it's also being a winner because there's no further stage to that, and you get to the shortlist, and you've essentially won, and you're included in the anthology, and with that comes various other opportunities. So I'm remaining hopeful for that, but with a hefty dose of realism in that I think there's 30 people on the long list and there's 14 spots in the anthology. Good odds, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, I think the last time I was longlisted for the Undiscovered Voices for the 2020 edition, I I garnered far too much hope. I started sort of daydreaming about, oh, if I get into this anthology, I will get to go to the agents' party that they hold, and all the agents will be fawning over my manuscript, and they'll want to offer to me straight away, and this will be my big breakout book and stuff. And you have these stupid daydream fantasies in your head that can take over, and so I'm going to do all that I can to avoid that this time round, because after not then making the anthology last time, I did face a fairly extended period of quite crushing disappointment. I, I reckon it was maybe 6 months or so before I fully got over it and sort of threw myself back into working on that book and getting it out to agents. But I think it's important to use that as a learning experience, and this time to not quell my excitement or my hope, but to make sure that I don't allow it to run out of control. Because the higher I let that go, the obviously the greater the fall when things don't work out for me. I should say if things don't work out for me, not when, but ever the pessimist. So yeah, that's sort of my up to date journey in terms of my rejections. I think that sometimes it's easier, and I was discussing this with a couple of authors recently. I think sometimes it's easier to sort of keep a poker face about your rejections, to keep silent, to not necessarily share how things are going. I think it's easy to maintain a persona of success if you only share the successful moments. But like the protagonists that we write about in our books, and the people that we want our young readers to root for and to cheer for, there has to be some disappointment along the way. There has to be setbacks and things that stop us on the journey towards whatever it is that we want. And there has to be learning, and we have to change as people along the way. And that doesn't happen in a vacuum of success. That only happens when you're continually confronted by obstacles. And so, for me anyway, I'm going to continue to share both the ups and downs. I will not dilute them. I'll be honest. I will, and this is something someone said to me recently, I'll take whatever comes with that. That might be that there might be some people look at me and think, oh yeah, actually he's not doing that well. He's not doing as well as maybe X, Y, or Z. But it might just be that X, Y, or Z are not telling you all about the times when it's tough or when they're struggling. And but I'll take that, because the good that it does to share this for me personally is huge for the people that listen to it and garner a lot of um, what's the word, like comradeship from it. They have a great deal of empathy and understanding for what I'm going through, because they've gone through it themselves. All of that makes it worth it, and I genuinely believe, and I've said this before, and I'll say it, for the rest of my life. I genuinely believe any agent, editor, publishing person worth their salt is not going to exclude potentially working with a writer because they're open and honest about the bad things about being a writer, about the tough times, about how often they've been rejected, about not been successful for X, Y, or Z competition. I genuinely, and to the core of myself, believe that sharing is a far more therapeutic and helpful to the entire writing world way of approaching how we manage the ups and downs. That said, I do completely understand those who want to keep a lid on it and maybe don't want to share the hard parts. That might be their way of dealing with it, and everyone's got to do whatever is best for themselves. Self care and self preservation are massively important. You know, it's human nature. Self preservation is at the heart of everything we do. We want to survive. That's part of how we're evolutionary programmed in our brain. It's how we get through life. But I just I think for me anyway, I'm just going to always continue to be like this, come what may. If it has any sort of detriment in any way, that's fine. I'm gonna take that on the chin, and I'll deal with any opportunities that don't come of because of it or any consequences. But I genuinely don't think there will be any. I think that people want to hear about this stuff, and I think that it's for a far greater good, even if it's not necessarily as self-serving to me. Although, as I say, the therapeutic value for myself is still extremely high. Okay, so I think you've probably heard enough from me as a nice wee intro to season two. Next time I speak to you, I'll be on with a guest, which is very exciting. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll be discussing their journey and their experience with rejection and how they have overcome and managed that, and what they're looking to take from that and learn to apply to the future so that they can manage their writing journey in a much more level and successful way. Thanks so much for joining me. May the force be with you.